Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one! Another one!
Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and he hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody, and welcome aboard to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
Welcome to
Coming
Indiana
to you from the
Sports Beat
Golf
Radio,
course
presented
Club
by
at Eagle
Endeavor
Point Studios. With Annex, as obviously we're here at BB's, as we are each and every Friday. BB's Market, located here in Bloomington, a part of the WOW Club, Endeavor Hospitality's WOW Club. Make sure you go to your Apple app or Google Play Store to sign up the WOW Club. So early WOW Rewards stay to great places like BB's. It's not just BB's, though. They've got all kinds of great places in the Endeavor umbrella. Capello Restaurant, the Allery, which is a vegan, great, actually great food. Vegan Go Team, Courtroom Sports Grill down in Bedford, Metalworks Brewing Company, Southern Stone, Feast Market Cellar, Fresh Fork, all kinds of great things that you guys can get to be a part of. And we'll, of course, be letting you know about that. Also, don't forget about our good friends, Andy Moore Honda, number one Honda dealer around. Just reach out. Go to andymorehonda.com for the best deals, always. Welcome in. It is a Friday. It is a game day. Indiana takes on Miami today, or not tonight, this evening. This afternoon? What the hell you want to call it? I think it's a 6 o'clock game. 6 p.m. at the Centos Center in Cincinnati. IU taking on Xavier and Sean Miller. That's going to be interesting. Should be a test. And if you don't believe me, if you haven't watched college basketball last night, we've got plenty to talk about, plenty to get to. Alec, Lasley on the program today from thehoosier.com. We'll catch up on Indiana recruiting and preview tonight's game with Xavier. Also, Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. We'll talk about that as well. Jeffrey the Greek, Mitchell Paige. We'll do some we haven't forgotten about football. It's still football. The last 2 weeks of football season. Indiana on the road at Michigan State this weekend. The Indiana women's team, basketball team, and a nice dominant win last night. So plenty to talk about. I hope everybody's doing well. I appreciate everybody jumping on the Andy Moore Honda hotline already. Larry, how you doing? Heath, Five Lefts, Howie, Forrest. There you go. In the kitchen, baby. One of these days I'll take you in the kitchen back here with JD's knocking something up great. I think we've got some tickets to give away coming up soon to a game. So be listening for that. And from now on, I'm not going to promote the ticket giveaway other than talking about it right here. It's just going to be for those of you that listen for giveaways that we have. So there's that. Michigan, woo, man, oh man, that's a little bit of a surprise, but getting spanked like that is the surprise, not losing the game, because Bobby Hurley on the other side of that. Funny, that game was played in New York, right in his wheelhouse. But some games, RC on the RC behind the wheel today for John, the producer, as John is on assignment. RC, thank you very much. Forgot to mention that. RC was watching some hoops last night. Texas.
My pleasure, Jim. And yeah, 2 nights ago it was Texas Gonzaga, and Texas looks tough, man. But it was at Texas, so.
Yeah, well, then you got Gonzaga squeaks by Michigan State. Michigan State turns around, beats Kentucky. Michigan gets a butt whipping last night. So it's going to be an interesting college basketball season, folks.
Michigan State might be underrated.
Oh, there's underrated. I've always mentioned them as
Overlooked.
Everyone's looking at Indiana and Illinois and maybe Michigan, but Michigan's going to take a back seat to that now. But Michigan State wasn't getting the pub that the others were, but I promise you that's going to change. It's so early. It's because it's all predictions. It's based off of last. It used to be based off of last year. Now you can only partly base it off of last year because of the constant change that happens with rosters and all that. So you never know who's going to be good, who isn't going to be good. You can recruit and plan, but you don't know. It's like Indiana right now. Jalen Hood-Schifino potentially is going to be a one and done. That's going to suck for Indiana because he is a ball player they have needed for a long, long time. And to only have him for a year would really be tragic, but that's the life of the game. Malik Renew, there's no guarantees that dude stays.
Man,
I know. He keeps getting better. Talked with Stephen Bardo yesterday. I know a lot of people were up in arms about his Big Ten list, but hopefully if you listen to the show that you know that he clarified that and that, I knew that there was something screwy there, but yeah, he basically is a mea culpa. Hey man, it was a mess up between me and my producer that was not supposed to be the name of it, I think. These were under the radar guys. Jalen Hood-Schifino, Malik Renew, they're not under the radar at all. As Jalen Hood-Schifino starts for Indiana, Malik Renew could start for Indiana or any other Big Ten team right now.
I agree.
So they've got that. So lots to get to today, man. Looking at some scores from last night. Oh, that's yesterday. Games coming up today. The Pacers also playing today. They're on the road down in Houston. Let's see, Colorado, Texas.
They're tough too.
Duke is playing this evening. Virginia plays tonight. They're playing Baylor. Oh, wow, there's a big game. Number 5 Baylor and number 16 Virginia. Auburn is playing at home. Kansas plays at home. UConn, Alabama. Here's a test for you that you're going to want to watch. Number 19 Illinois hosting number 8 UCLA. That's a 9:30 game, so it'll be after Indiana. Plenty of time to watch that. So there you go. There's the games to watch today. Indiana and Xavier, and then UCLA at Illinois. That is, or I don't know if they're at Illinois, if they're playing at someplace, but that could be in one of those tournaments. So we'll see. But yeah, that's going to be. And Stephen mentioned that it's a game to watch tomorrow. Stephen Bardo yesterday when he was on the program. A big thanks to him for coming on like that, because I think he kind of knew what I was going to be asking about. But yeah, appreciate him coming on regardless and clearing that up so people can chillax, because there's another video that I didn't send out of his that he sent to me that he raves about Indiana. It was his.
Yeah, he was very respectful of Indiana. And
he knows that they're good. It was just a misunderstanding. Some scores last night. That has to be, it was. That's when I was like, wow, that's looking at that score. Penn State picks up a win over Furman. Nebraska gets thumped in the Gavitt games by St. John's by 20. Not looking good for Nebraska already. Minnesota, they eked out a win over Central Michigan last night, 68-60. And, of course, Michigan just gets destroyed by unranked Arizona State, 87-62. So Bobby Hurley's squad putting a number on Juwan Howard and crew there. And so much for, is that his son, Jet Howard, I guess? Yeah, that he listed. So, but lots going on. Indiana playing basketball. Not only does Indiana have a game tonight, football on Saturday, they come back on Sunday in Indianapolis to take on Miami. So it is a busy weekend for Indiana sports. You had the women's teams playing last night. I think, when does soccer start? Got to keep up, trying to keep up with that. It's a tough. There's a lot going on, people. It's what's called crossover season. You've got basketball, football, and if you're following college, if you're following soccer, or if you're at a good program like Indiana, then you've got soccer. You've got the women's basketball. It is a lot. Thank God we don't cover swimming and diving and that kind of stuff, because, woo, I'd be like Cal Neddenrip. That dude never stops. He is always on the go. What are you expecting tonight? The spread for the Indiana Xavier game is, I think last I checked, was 10 points. No, that's actually the Michigan State Indiana spread. I haven't even looked at the one for the Xavier game, which I'd like to do that just to get an idea of what is going on. All right, we got to take a quick break. Alec Lasley is going to join us next. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you from BB's Market on this Friday, right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Yeah, man. Sorry.
What was you saying about the mic?
Oh, it was making some popping sounds there at the beginning, but it smoothed out. It stopped doing it at the second half of the.
I'm not even using a mic. I'm only using headphones. That's a computer mic.
It was just kind of popping every, 10 or so seconds. Just it sounded like a record player or something, but it went away. So you're good now. I just wanted to let you know.
I've got to find an extension cord. Right back.
Yeah.
Oh, crap. Let's move it. Crap.
How we doing?
It's time to go live. Okay.
It's what? I didn't hear anything you all said.
I think he said.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's time to go. Time to go live whenever you're ready.
We're always ready.
Okay, I'll count you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here on this Friday. Of course, we're at BB's Market where you can stop in and check out the show live. Also, obviously, one of our sponsors, pick up some great meats. I'm sitting there looking at some of the turkeys that they're getting ready to go back and do some great stuff with. Speaking of turkeys, Alec Lasley, no, just kidding. I used that on Bob Kravitz the other day. It was hump day. And I said, speaking of humps, welcome in Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. Alec, how are you doing, brother?
Good. How are you doing?
Cannot complain. It's game day. Indiana travels to Cincinnati today to take on Xavier. We've got UCLA and Illinois. Last night we saw Michigan get absolutely run out of the gym by Bobby Hurley. And Michigan State beats Kentucky. So we've got a lot to unpack here in the Big Ten this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we finally last week was a bit of a lull to kind of get the season started, and now you're getting into some of these huge non-conference matchups. Obviously, Indiana their first real test this season, but you're looking around the Big Ten, and I think there's still we came into the season with a lot of question marks surrounding a lot of the teams so far. I think Michigan State's proven to be a little bit tougher and better than maybe some people expected. Michigan, I think a lot of people were expecting a little bit more out of the gate than what they've shown. Obviously struggled against Eastern Michigan last week as well, and almost lost that one. So still a lot to work with, especially with their guard play. I don't think it's as good as people were expecting or kind of anticipating heading into the season. So they have a lot of issues to kind of work around. Not a lot of wing scoring, which they've typically had a good amount of. So if Hunter Dickinson's not on, or at least struggling a little bit, they're going to struggle to find some points, especially if Jet Howard isn't hitting from the outside. Those are their two main scoring options, and they're kind of lacking that consistent third scorer, at least for the moment. We'll see, obviously, how that develops as the season moves on. Only 3-4 games into the season, but all in all, I think the Big Ten's still in a good place. I think Iowa, their matchup against Seton Hall earlier this week as part of the Gavitt games, I think they showed that they're probably going to be a little bit better than people thought. I think Chris Murray's obviously ready to kind of step into that role that his brother had last year, being Keegan Murray, obviously off to the NBA now. But all in all, I think the Big Ten's still going to be one of the best conferences in the league or in the country, but still a lot of questions, I think, outside of the top maybe 3 teams of kind of where teams match up and finish as the year goes on here.
Yeah, I had Stephen Bardo on yesterday, and of course, he had his Big Ten top freshman list that went out, which drew a lot of ire from Indiana fans. But after having him on the show yesterday, he explained that was basically a screw up between him and his producer as far as getting the right information of how it was going to be called. But because he has nothing but respect for Jalen Hood-Schifino and Malik Renew, he talked about that yesterday. They are not only 2 of the best freshmen, they're just 2 of the best players. Malik Renew could start on any Big Ten team in this league, as could Jalen Hood-Schifino. So Indiana has a hand up there. And Michigan's, last night watching Michigan, their starters, it didn't look cohesive. I don't know what it was, but they just weren't in rhythm. I didn't see the big boy do much. I don't know what his stats were. I haven't checked them, but I tried to watch as much of it as I could, and I didn't see him have much of an impact. which was a little shocking.
Yeah, he finished with 14 and 5, but I mean, all in all, what wasn't a great shooting performance from him. Again, the major issue with Michigan is just the lack of guard play. They bring in Jalen Llewellyn, transfer, and just hasn't been able to fit through the first couple of games so far. Really kind of struggled to get his shot. I think he's only shooting about 35% from the field. Obviously, as a point guard, can't really be doing that. He's not a true point guard to begin with, more of a scoring point guard. And obviously, if you bring in a scoring point guard as a senior to kind of take over the reins from what you've had the past couple of years, where they've had some success with those transfer point guards, and he's not shooting the ball, obviously you're going to struggle. They have some young pieces who just haven't been able to kind of find their role yet. Again, only 4 games in. Right, well, we'll see what happens moving forward. But outside of Hunter Dickinson and Jet Howard, they just don't have a lot of they have a lot of complementary pieces, but they don't have that third scorer that they really need, especially in the backcourt, to be a consistent piece and effectively score the ball. And if you don't have that, they're going to double Hunter Dickinson a lot more. And he hasn't proven to be a fantastic passer out of double teams. But again, if you don't have shooters around, it doesn't matter, which way that ball goes. So Michigan has some issues that they need to work through right now. And I think you'll end up seeing them again in the middle of the pack, if not at the closer to the top, once the Big Ten's all said and done. But I don't think they're going to be within that top 3, just due to their point guard play and their inconsistencies throughout the first couple of weeks here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We'll get a good look at Illinois as they take on UCLA. That is going to be a battle. Is that being played somewhere neutral? I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's in Vegas. It's part of a doubleheader. One of these preseason tournaments with Baylor and Virginia. So the winner, obviously, of those two will face each other this weekend. But yeah, that should be. I think obviously Illinois coming in, I think it was kind of 1A, 1B with what a lot of people thought with Indiana and Illinois. Illinois brought in a lot of new pieces, whether they be freshmen who are playing big roles or transfers. And I think you're seeing Terrence Shannon really step up, having a fantastic couple games to start the year. The Texas Tech transfer there, but I think he's kind of molded himself into that, player of the year contention with Trace Jackson Davis. I think you're going to see him continue this play that he's had so far. A couple freshmen that have really stepped up, I think, to start the year that maybe a lot of people weren't expecting to have the impact that they're having right away. And still some pieces that they're trying to figure out. Sky Clark's been a little bit inconsistent to start the year. They're 5-star point guard. They're teammates with Jalen Hood-Schifino and Malik Renew last year. So they have some really good guard talent, but some really young guard talent. And I think that's going to be the major question mark for them, just like it is Michigan moving forward to see how consistent those freshman guards can be, especially when you don't have a lot of veterans that you did have in the past, especially in the backcourt for Illinois.
Yeah, and then Indiana, of course, has their game tonight at 6 versus Xavier. We'll talk I haven't seen Xavier a lot. They were on TV the other night. I know they played 3 games. They haven't really been hugely impressive, but doesn't matter right now. It's early in the season. They've got some pieces that it's going to be interesting to see how that Indiana attacks that. Jack Nungy, a big 6'10", 11, 12, 7 foot, whatever he really is. He's going to be on the perimeter a lot. I don't think he likes to spend a lot of time in the paint, but that's fine if Race Thompson draws that assignment. But I don't think that they really have anyone that can keep up with Trace Jackson Davis for that time. And then you're going to bring in Malik Renew. So Indiana just has this 1, 2, 3 punch, and we haven't even talked about the guards. You talked about Michigan's lack of guard play, especially at the point. Indiana truly has 3 guys they can run at the point and do run at the point. Few teams have that. Mike Woodson has a lot of weapons at his disposal this year, and they talked. Everyone thought Indiana was deep last year, and they were not at all. They are truly a deep team this year, and that's going to serve them very well. And I think this is a game that where it will start.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we talked to Mike Woodson yesterday, and one of the questions that I asked him was about the backcourt that Indiana has, right, and the talent that they have defensively, which they didn't have last year. Now multiple guys that they can kind of throw out on the perimeter, on the wing, to defend, because that was one issue that Indiana had most of last year, was being able to really have some sort of lockdown wing defense. They were helped a lot by the interior, especially Trace Jackson Davis averaging almost 2.5 blocks a game, right? So that kind of masked a lot of the deficiencies that they had out on the perimeter. Got a lot better towards the end of the season, especially with Miller Kopp coming on late. But when you have Xavier Johnson and Jalen Hood-Schifino as those two backcourt guards, both with good size, good physical type of play to be in the Big Ten, that's one thing that he even said yesterday was a huge plus that they didn't have last year. Obviously, Xavier Johnson was a very, very good defender last year, but now you have two guard defenders, and that's going to be a key going up against Xavier, who have 3, 4, 5 different perimeter scorers who can light it up not only from deep, but are bigger, athletic, longer guards that Indiana has struggled with some sort of this roster in the past. And when you have 6'4", 6'5" point guards and shooting guards and 6'6", 6'7" wings, which Xavier has, that's going to pose a problem if Indiana's not ready to go defensively on the perimeter because of the rate that Xavier does shoot the ball. They're one of the most effective shooting teams in the country. They don't get a lot of shots off because they still turn it over about 1 every 5 possessions. But overall, they're shooting almost 60% from the field to start the season here. They don't take a lot of threes, but they are shooting almost 50% from 3 on about 7 makes a game. So when you put those two things together, you're going to need to stop, obviously, the dribble drive, and that obviously starts with the defensive unit with Indiana in that backcourt. So I think that's going to be a huge key, and we'll see if they're up for the test. Haven't been able to face an athletic, long, and tall backcourt so far this season. So that's going to be the key in my opinion, even though a lot of people are obviously going to look at the front court matchup there, which still is going to be a good matchup in itself.
Yeah, it's this is also going Indiana. We've seen a lot that Indiana hasn't won a true road game since this and that. And I mean, they don't play a lot of true road games. For one thing, you don't put yourself in that position very often. You try not to. Everybody gets on Calipari about that, but everyone tries to do that. So part of that is not having played. The only road games they're playing these days are Kansas is an anomaly because that was just added. You've had the Gavitt games and the ACC Big Ten Challenge. They had Syracuse in this, so they don't have a lot. Should have won that game to Syracuse, ironically. But this spans 2 previous coaches, this losing streak on the road for non-con games. That can't be overlooked, even though it has to do with different programs, different guys. It's something to keep in mind. They go on the road. They went on the road at Syracuse last year, could not get it done over a team that they were obviously much better than. So this is also the first true road test for Malik Renew and Jalen Hood-Schifino. Those guys have not been on the road in college, as well as CJ Gunn, if those guys see action. But those two. So I don't think it's going to affect – I don't think anything is going to affect Malik Renew. He's just locked in. I don't know if it's locked in or he just – I was talking – I forget who was on the show, what day it was, but he just plays like he's playing against some 11th graders out there, man. Like he's just going to do his deal no matter what. Doesn't matter who comes in, who they're playing against, where they are. He just seems to get unaffected. And I think Jalen Hood-Schifino is going to be the same way because of the environment that they came from Montverde.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they basically played in big-time college atmospheres already in high school, and obviously even dating back to playing in AAU. Just the teams that both of them were on playing in those type of environments. Obviously, much different environment going on the road in college on a Friday night, right? Xavier has a lot of momentum here with Sean Miller. being back for the second time, in his coaching career. A lot of people expecting a lot out of this team in general. I think a lot of people were surprised too that they weren't ranked in the top 25 to begin the season, right outside now. But I think all in all, the freshmen are going to struggle a little bit, I think, right when they get in the game, just because, again, this is their first big time, college game. No matter what you say about the first couple games to start, obviously at Assembly Hall, you have your first couple game jitters, but going on the road to a Big East team, to a team that has a lot of aspirations to not only make the NCAA tournament, but to win a game that is in Xavier. And Sean Miller, no matter what you want to say with obviously the FBI and NCAA investigations and everything that came down at Arizona, the guy can coach. The guy has a very, very good and appealing scheme. And when you have shooters on the floor and when you play the defense that he likes to play, that's a tough test no matter who's coming in, no matter if you're a veteran or a freshman here. But, Mike Woodson said it yesterday, right? No matter where you're going on the road, it's tough to win on the road. So you got to lean on the veterans, and Indiana has that. And Sean Miller even talked about that, the experience that this team has coming in for Indiana, and that's what you're going to have to see. And I think Xavier Johnson's going to have to play a very good game from start to finish to take a little bit of that pressure off of a guy like Jalen Hood-Schifino and even some of those other ball handlers. It can't get in foul trouble early because if he does, that's going to put a lot of stress not only on Mike Woodson but the rest of these players. And the free flow of this offense so far to begin the season, that's going to be taken away immediately with the defensive pressure that Xavier's going to bring and the length that they have. So you need a veteran point guard out there to at least get this offense in some sort of a rhythm, or else it could be a tough first half if Indiana's not ready to come out of the gate strong.
Yeah, not only that, X has got to stay out of foul trouble, but they also have to keep hitting their free throws, which means staying locked in. Because if you get into a game that starts to get close, that's how games get away from people. And I asked Trey Galloway about that yesterday because they said that has really been a focus, and we've seen it be a lot better. But that's something they need to sustain because that's part of how Michigan State beat Kentucky the other night. They hit 12 out of 13 free throws in the overtime periods. They hit 23 of 27 overall. You think that don't win you games? You're wrong, especially in these big games, especially when you go on the road. You have to do the little things, not turn the ball over and hit free throws. We've got more coming up to talk about. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com is with us. Catch you up on the recruiting scene for Indiana and see what's going on there. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from Peepe's Market here on this Friday, where we're usually live each and every week. You can stop in and join us and have a meal. I'll buy it for you. Brought to you by Go Teen, of course, a part of the Wow Endeavor Hospitality Group. Go Teen for those on the go. It's easy packed with protein, tastes delicious. You can pick them up at GoTeenBites.com or come in here at BB's and get them. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Indiana is a 3.5-point favorite.
Yeah, it keeps going up.
Well, I think they're going to win by 12.
Ooh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's going to. I mean, I think a lot of it depends if Colby Jones is playing for Xavier.
Oh yeah.
I think they're going to try to give him a go. But
yeah, I guarantee you they do. I bet you.
Yeah.
Well, they can't. Well, without him, they're shot. They don't have him. They may lose by more than that.
Yeah, I mean they still have decent enough depth to deal with that. He's not a shooter, so they still have the shooters on the floor, but he's probably the grittiest player. So I think that's the one thing, especially with this Indiana team, that you need this year is if you're going up against them, right? You can't lose some sort of gritty player who's gonna be able to kind of bang in the paint there, even though he's not a big man. He kind of lives down there. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, we didn't talk about Jerome.
Jerome Hunter?
Yeah.
He hasn't done shit. He's not playing for him hardly. He plays like 4 minutes a game.
Yeah, he's obviously he's not a critical member of that roster, but
thank you, Jennifer.
He'll probably come out drain a three and then pick up a couple fouls.
Well, we'll talk about it a little bit to start. How much recruiting is there to even talk about?
You're live in 45 seconds, just so you know.
Not a ton. Biggest thing, Santo, his visit last weekend, Dylan Harper last weekend, but outside of Cyril, yeah. And, they don't have a lot coming up until I guess it's only, about 2 weeks from now, but the Carolina game where they have, I think it's 8 visitors confirmed.
Don't forget to change the brand, RC logo, whoever's next.
All right, I'll put on Remax. You're live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here from BB's Market on this Friday, live at BB's, brought to you by our good friends at Remax Realty. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between you getting the home you want or not. Reach out to Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com with us, talking about Indiana as they get ready to open their season. The women's team having expected great start to their year. Another big win last night for them, Alec.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, a lot of people were looking to see exactly, how they performed at Tennessee. I think they knocked it out of the park. Terry Moran talked about it a lot, even to finish last year and coming into this year. The ability to be in a lot of these big time games and these nationally televised big showdowns, but just haven't been able to kind of, finish some of them. Right? They were in the game for the majority of that against UConn. Obviously, the year before with Arizona in the Elite Eight, and just haven't been able to get over the hump a little bit in these big time games, and led from basically start to finish against Tennessee, and were really able to overcome that third quarter run that Tennessee had and finish strong. And this is a fantastic team that Terry Moran has. I think reaching in the transfer portal, bringing in a lot of Power 5 players was significant, especially with what they lost last year. And obviously they've been playing great up to this point throughout the first 4 or 5 games. Next test, obviously against Carolina, just like the men's team for the ACC Big Ten Challenge on the women's side. So that should be another one with a top 15 opponent in North Carolina. So they're testing themselves early, playing against national brands, and that's what I think Terry Moran's been trying to get to establish Indiana as that national brand, and I think they're there. And now it's just about winning some of these games, much like the men's team as well, getting back to kind of that national conversation and winning some of these big time games. So not a better year for men's or women's basketball for this Indiana program altogether than what they're probably going to have this year.
It's probably going to be a historical season, to be quite honest with you, for the 2 combined. I mean, but
yep.
It's been great. Jerome Hunter, former Indiana player on the Xavier's roster, doesn't get a lot of playing time. One of Archie Miller's recruits that ended up with his brother. I'm looking down for the season. He's averaging 11 minutes. He's averaging 11 minutes a game in the 3 games that he's played. He's hit his free throws. He's got 4 rebounds, averages assists, a little under 4 points a game. So if I don't know how much you'll see Jerome Hunter tonight. More than that, you may see him a little more if they're having issues with their guard and they have to make different arrangements. Although I know he's not a guard, but so there's a Jerome Hunter update. But he's not a high caliber player for them. I think as you said.
Yeah, and I mean the biggest thing that however you want to put it, the unfortunate part about him, the skill has not translated ever since he missed the year at Indiana to kind of begin his career. But the biggest thing coming back was, where does he fit? Is he on the perimeter? Is he a big man? Xavier's tried to kind of morph him into that stretch four, but he's not big enough to play in the post for the most part. And if he's not hitting his outside shots, that's really not going to be super effective. He scored 11 points in the opener. Has not scored a single point since then. So he's gone 11, then 0-0, and he's not even attempted a 3-point shot on the season. So if you're not getting any scoring out of him, really not a lot you're going to get out of him. And has 11 fouls and 11 points on the season. And that was the biggest thing when he did get into the games for Indiana, was the foul trouble. It looks like that's, staying part of the course there. But, it's just good to see him out on the floor. We'll see, what he provides for Xavier in the back end of that rotation. But like you said, if they get into foul trouble, which, theoretically they could if Indiana's going to pound the post there, you could see some extended minutes from him. And, I think he'll be fired up and ready to go, obviously. And we'll see if he can have some sort of magic and spark for Xavier. But, just not a huge part of, what that team is trying to do this year.
And I'm also going to be interested to see how Miller Kopp does on the road. He's been shooting the ball well and not forcing things. The team overall, I've mentioned this, some of the starters have not really shot the ball that well from a percentage standpoint. I remember, out of the 2 games, at least both times, 2 or 3 of the starters went 1 for 5 or something like that. And in the last game, I think 3 of the 5 starters shot less than 30% for the game. But it's the rest of the team that helps make up for that. Well, Trace Jackson made up for that with his 9-10 performance. But it's kind of been glossed over a little bit because of who they played, and they've been able to overall shoot the ball so well. But that is something that I'm going to have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting, right? The backcourt has struggled to shoot the ball a little bit to begin here. Xavier Johnson hasn't taken a ton of overall shots outside of the exhibition games. But obviously Jalen Hood-Schifino struggled a little bit in that second game, mainly from the perimeter. Still, when he gets in kind of the mid-range and 15 feet and in, he does a pretty good job of finishing. But outside of the big guys, not a lot of people are taking a lot of twos. Miller Kopp hasn't made a 2-point field goal to begin the season here, just hit everything on threes or free throws to start, only taken 3 2-point shots to begin here in the first couple of games. So at some point he's going to need to take a few more, because they're going to run him off the 3-point line. He's going to need to finish in the mid-range, and he's shown the ability to do that. But outside of that, I mean, you have a lot of those forwards in Jordan Geronimo, Malik Renew, who are pretty much going to stay 15 feet and in. And so far, they're, you look at all those big guys outside of Race Thompson, who struggled a little bit with his shot, just not looking as aggressively because they don't need him to be quite honest. But Jordan Geronimo, Malik Renew, and Trace Jackson Davis, the 3 leading scorers for this team, all shooting above 71% from the field. And if you have that in 3 of your key players, especially 6'7" and taller, that's going to be tough to stop, especially if you have multiple guys doing that, and you have 2 guys coming off the bench and doing that, going against second units for a large portion of the game. That's going to be difficult to stop no matter how big and tall, long you are. So it's going to be interesting to see if these guards can kind of step up, hit some shots, because they're going to need to tonight. I think you're going to see a little bit more double teaming of the post there, whether it's Malik Renew or Trace Jackson Davis, and force these guards to hit some outside shots, which, again, coming into this year has been a huge issue with this team so far this year, especially last time out. they show they do have the ability to hit those outside shots. So we'll see if they're able to do that on the road, and especially early on, and see if they miss a couple shots early on, if they tense up, which they have a tendency to do in the past. And we'll see obviously how that all works out.
On the recruiting side, Cyril St. Indiana had a couple of recruits to visit here recently. Of course, Cyril is one of those, the big man Indiana covets, as well as a lot of other people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the two official visits he's been on right now are Cincinnati and then Indiana. Indiana really only been involved for the past couple of weeks, but assistant coach Zio Roseman has done a fantastic job with that recruitment, getting him on campus. Visit went about as good as you could expect the visit to go, if not a little bit better. Indiana, I think, is going to be very, very significant in this recruitment. Right now, still a 2024 class. Does have the option to move up, and there have been some talks about him potentially moving up to 2023. He's a little bit older for his grade, so that's why some of that talk has shifted to potentially move into the 2023 class. But talking with his guardian, they're in the 2024 class right now. They're going to stay there until they need to make a decision on that. But we'll see what happens here in the next couple of months. I don't envision a lot of official visits coming, especially playing on Overtime Elite. It's a very hectic schedule. His guardian Stephen Cook is a coach for Hamilton Heights there in Chattanooga, outside in Tennessee. So their schedules don't really align a whole lot, obviously, with this season now. So we'll see what happens. But Indiana's pushing extremely hard for him. I think Indiana's going to be one of those one or two teams to beat for him. And still would not shock me to see him go class of 2023, but at the moment staying in 2024.
Let's see, and then Dylan Harper visited recently as well. That was almost a week ago now.
Yeah, they were both on the visit together last weekend, but Dylan Harper, obviously 5-star guard, brother of Ron Harper Jr. there at Rutgers. Rutgers and Duke seem to be.
There's no chance this kid comes to Indiana after Ron Harper's exit from Rutgers. I just don't see it, man.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Rutgers is going to be tough to beat. Been there, numerous times. Has the history there, and obviously we saw what Ron Harper Jr. was able to do at Rutgers. That's going to be difficult to beat. I still think Duke is very strong in there, and the people that I talked to kind of around that recruitment do see Rutgers and Duke as the top two, and then you kind of drop a level, and Indiana's right there. But at the moment, it just seems like it's going to be a little bit too difficult to overcome one of those two schools in this recruitment. But at the same time, again, they needed to get him on campus to even have a remote shot. They did that. They kind of hit all the keys that they needed to hit. His mom runs basically that entire recruitment. So you needed the mom to be on some sort of the same page. She was on that visit, as she will be with every other visit that he takes. But I think out of those two visits this past weekend, you look at Santos, and that's the one to continue to follow for Indiana if you're going to follow one of those two as we continue to trend into the rest of their recruiting cycle.
Also, let's see. What was I going to ask about? Dang it. On the recruiting side, Indiana has not. There's not been anybody that's really been targeted. Are they going to have to hit the portal after this season?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they signed obviously the two guards that they've had committed for quite a while, and Ja'Kai Newton and Gabe Cupps, both 4-star guards, really solidified the backcourt. But they're still going to look at probably two positions in the transfer portal, or again with reclassifying. It's going to be a big guy. They have a lot of minutes available in that front court for next year with the departures of Trace Jackson Davis and Race Thompson, who obviously play a large part in this team for the past 2 seasons, if not more. So you need someone who can step in immediately and play that role, regardless of what is going to happen with Malik Renew. In terms of the role that he's going to play, I would be surprised to see him go after this year, but we'll see what happens as the season continues to go on here. And then they're going to go out, and I would be shocked if they don't go out and get a veteran point guard. I think that a lot of the expectation is Jalen Hood-Schifino is going to leave after this year. even if he does not leave, you still need to get another point guard. I don't think as good as Gabe Cupps is going to be, I don't think he's going to be expected to play 15, 17, 18 minutes a game as a freshman. I think he's going to be a very good third point guard or third ball handler in spot minutes. But I don't think you're going to see Gabe Cupps' true potential and part of this team until sophomore, junior years. So you need to go out and you need to get a veteran point guard. And Indiana's been able to obviously get good guards late in recruiting periods. Obviously got Tamar Bates, got Xavier Johnson through the transfer portal, got Parker Stewart through the transfer portal as well. So they've been able to showcase that ability to go out and get guards. And now after 2 full seasons of what Indiana's doing under Mike Woodson, it's going to be even a easier recruiting pitch, especially with the style of play that they want with multiple ball handlers on the floor, which is what you need in the modern game of basketball. There's not going to be a guard that's going to be limited when he comes to Indiana, especially if you take away Trace Jackson Davis. That even opens it up more for the potential for a big time scoring guard. So those are the 2 positions of need. They're going to get that in the transfer portal or in a late addition in the 2023 class. But I would go more on the side of the transfer portal at the moment, just because the guys who aren't committed right now in the 2023 class, Indiana is not involved with. Don't expect them to get involved with. And unless there's some, there's always going to be some guys who obviously get out of their letters of intent if a coach leaves or decommit from a school late in the cycle. But I don't see that being the fit for Indiana at the moment. I think they're going to go more veteran, and they need to next year in order to hit some of these holes that are going to be left after some of these departures in key positions.
Well, tonight's game is going to be an environment, a tournament-like environment, Alec. I know the Hoosier.com is going to be there in force. What all do you have in store, and what can the people look for?
Yeah, well, obviously, we'll be there. We'll have a lot of guys there from our site. Biggest thing, obviously, a lot of previews up on the site right now, scouting notes, full game previews. Have some stuff about what Sean Miller have to say about Indiana. But yeah, going into the game, the keys, obviously the backcourt, I think is, we talked about that earlier. That's the biggest key in my opinion. What Indiana is going to be able to do defensively to slow down the dribble drive, which they did struggle with at times last year. And then, are they going to be able to hit outside shots at the same rate that they did last game? Probably not. So are they going to at least be able to hit at some sort of rate in between the first game and the second game, which you're going to need to do? And then, Indiana's still going to have their hands full with Xavier's front court. No matter what Indiana's front court is going to do, I think Xavier it throws a lot of different tools and has a lot of versatility with not only Jack Nungy, but Zach Freemantle, who's coming off of a triple-double their last time out, averaging 15, 7, and 5 as a 6'10" big guy. So bring a lot of different pieces to that team. And then, which I think we talked about during the break, was the status around Colby Jones. They're really, really talented wing, kind of all-around player. Leads the team in assists as well. Really good playmaker. We'll see if he plays, dealing with an ankle sprain. Sean Miller said it's going to be pretty much a game time decision, but he is leaning towards the emphasis that he will play. So still a question mark there. We'll see what happens, but I think those are the keys when you're looking at this matchup later on tonight.
Looking forward to it. Make sure you give Alec Lasley a follow on Twitter and go to thehoosier.com for complete coverage of tonight's game with Indiana and Xavier. At Xavier, they will have a live thread and everything else that you need. Alec, thank you very much, man.
I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Appreciate you. Speaking of Twitter, appreciate it if you went there and give me a follow as well, at Jim Coyle, ISB, to keep up with everything that we put out. Appreciate that. We've got to take a break. Coming up next, Zach Osterman from the Indy Star will be joining us. Brought to you by our good friends from Barber Pop Real Estate Services. If you're down in the Louisville, Southern Indiana area, Floyd, Clark, Harrison, Scott counties, all down through there, they have served that community for 3 decades. And they can get you in the home quicker and more inexpensively than anyone else. Reach out to our friend Barbara Pop at barbarapop.com, or my man, Matt Lincoln, Matt at barbarapop.com. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Logan said he didn't know, and then I talked to Sadie, and she said that she didn't think she could hook sound up to it. That the TV never had sound hooked up to it. That the speakers are just the sound system, so they use those like rotated like slides. But she said she didn't know how to hook your stuff up to the sonar system, the music player. That's what we did.
Yeah, I get Orion.
Probably.
We're gonna have that for the other side, isn't it?
Yeah. Ethan, Daniel.
Live in about 20 seconds, Jim.
Okay.
All right, you're good. In 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Friday. We're at BB's Market, of course, where we generally are. You can always stop in and join us live. As our peeps are back there, I'll buy you a meal, lunch, brunch, whatever you want. Waiting for is RC Zach Osterman generally joins us at this time.
He's not here.
Well, I can see that. We'll wait and see if Zach is coming or not. Looking forward to Mitchell Paige and Jeffrey the Greek later as well. As football, we've not talked a lick about what's going on there. So we'll have to cover those because football season's not over. Zach Osterman joins us. Zach, with his throwback unis, what do we got on there, man? That looks like a good one.
This is the Homestead Grays. They were a Negro League.
Negro Leagues? Yeah.
Pittsburgh. It was the team Josh Gibson played most of his career for.
Where were they? Where's Homestead?
I'm almost certain it was in Pittsburgh. I'll Google it while we
That's very cool.
Twitter may be leaving, but Google's not going anywhere.
You could tell when I just seeing that jersey, I'm like, oh my, that looks cool. The old baseball jerseys probably look the coolest of any old sports uniforms.
I agree. I would agree with that.
I don't know why that is, but it just seems to be true. I did see you wearing when you and Chronic were cutting your most recent pod that you were wearing your Hawks jersey, baby.
Yeah, and then they faced a shorthanded Boston team at home and got blown out. So some things never change.
Zach's an Atlanta guy from Atlanta, so he's got some affiliation to the Hawks, the Braves. Everyone, Rick Bozich is a White Sox fan. I'm a Reds fan. It's like, why couldn't I have grown up? I grew up with a winner. Unfortunately, they just changed. And I'm afraid mine's never going to come back, man, being in that small market. But lots going on in sports last night, of course. Michigan, man, that was kind of a shocker. Part of it is I don't know how good Arizona State, they could just be really good. Just because they were unranked. You got Bobby Hurley on the sideline there. They looked damn good watching them in the game. They shot the heck out of the ball. But a little surprised to see Michigan get run out of the gym like that.
Yeah, I mean, early season will throw up weird results. We know that. I mean, and I think I think part of the problem is that these results go up while we're still kind of in college football mode, and we're thinking, oh my God, every game means so much, and every game's a statement on the course of a season. And then, we get to February and March, and Michigan's top 5 in the country. I'm not saying they're going to be, but we look back at November and we say, wow, that game did not mean what we thought it meant. I mean, listen, I'm old enough to remember an Indiana season where I covered Indiana beating Kansas and UNC in November, and that season ended in the NIT. So, it's just you don't want to make too much of it. I agree. It was surprising. I would say on the other side, not that Pitt is very good or should be very good this year, but Michigan buried Pitt in the game before that. They won by 31. So, if you're asking me my best guess, it's probably just one of those early season results that happen sometimes that we make more of them than we should because they're all we've got. And, we're trying to make mountains out of molehills when it comes to looking at what we've seen of the schedule to tell us what we'll learn, the rest of the way. But it was, I agree with you at the same time. It was, seeing that score kind of flash across, I think with about 8 minutes to go, it was like, oh, because I don't, maybe we're wrong about Arizona State too, but I don't think Arizona State's supposed to be that good. They lost to Texas Southern already this season. I don't think they only beat, I'm looking at their schedule now. They only beat Tarleton State by 3. They only beat VCU by 4. They lost to Texas Southern, and they beat Michigan by 25. So,
And sometimes you just have bad nights. I mean, Indiana's going to have a bad night. There's probably going to be a surprise loss somewhere that you just did not see coming. They happen. You brought the right situation on the road, whatever. I mean, tonight at Xavier, for example, I expect Indiana to win, but this is going to be a tournament-like environment. This is a sold-out, standing room only. This is big for Xavier. Beating a ranked team, beating an Indiana team, Sean Miller beating Indiana. There's just Jack Nungy, Jerome Hunter. There are a ton of things that Xavier has to fight for, and that's just going to increase the electricity in that environment, which is great because that does two things. That gives Indiana some experience that they don't have with Malik Renew and Jalen Schifino especially, but it will also give, if they can get this quote-unquote monkey off their back, a solid road court win, and then move forward from there with the confidence that would give them.
Yeah, I mean, I tweeted this a couple stats out yesterday. I mean, true non-conference road wins, not neutral or semi away, whatever, are very rare for Indiana in the last 20, 25 years. The last time Indiana beat a team that finished, Xavier at the moment is 36th in the KenPom rankings. The last time Indiana beat a team that finished in the top 50 in KenPom in a genuine non-conference road game was 2012. The last time Indiana beat a team that finished in the top 40 was 2001. And, frankly, those numbers don't change much if you go to conference play. If you knock off the COVID season when there were fans in the stadium or fans in the arenas, the previous 5 years, not counting that one, Indiana's got three conference road wins against KenPom top 50 teams. It is not. I mean, this program has struggled mightily on the road, and you're right. Xavier's got plenty to play for. Indiana's a big scout. They've enjoyed a solid start under Sean Miller. They'll want this to be kind of the early jewel in the crown. But the flip side is, I think, and I don't know if you've sensed this, Jim, but I have sensed, Tom Allen, Mike Woodson used the term anxious yesterday when he was describing this game and his feelings toward it. But I don't think he was anxious because he was nervous. I think he was anxious because he wants to see his team play in this game. And I think that, being around these guys, even going back as far as Hoosier Hysteria, I think they are anxious to play in games like this. I think they think they're good, and they want to play in the games that are going to prove it, basically. And they want these opportunities to flip the script a little bit, to get a road win, for example. Indiana didn't get a road win until January 17th last year. To get one tonight against what looks like a good team in a tough environment, not Nebraska in the dog days of Big Ten play, but Xavier on a Friday night in a showcase game. I think they are anxious for that as well. I think they are anxious for basically that opportunity, and it's going to be fascinating to see how they handle it. I think Xavier, at least on paper, is the least of the four big non-conference opponents they have, but it's the first one, and it's on the road. So it's going to be a challenge, and it's just going to be interesting to see, how this all works out.
Yeah, and it's an opportunity because Indiana has not performed well on the road, like you said. But I agree with you what you said about Mike Woodson and why he's anxious to see his team play, because he doesn't know. I don't think he knows truly where they are just yet, and this will give him a pretty good understanding, especially if Kobe Jones is able to play for Xavier, because this is going to be a test. It's going to be a test in an environment that he knows is going to be very difficult to play in. They went to Wisconsin last year and had that 22-point lead and just couldn't hold on to it. So he wants to make sure that those types of things are gone, and these guys are playing focused and ignoring that. I think that they're going, and I don't think that's going to be an issue personally. Earlier we were talking with Alec Lasley, because of Jalen Hood-Schifino and Malik Renew coming from where they have come from at Montverde Academy. They have been in a lot of environments, not necessarily like the ones they're going to be in, but the play I've seen early on from Malik Renew is he just doesn't matter who, where, what, when. He's just out there playing. And Jalen Hood doesn't seem to get rattled. We'll see tonight, but I understand exactly Mike Woodson wants to know now, because of the other games you mentioned coming up, so they can better prepare for North Carolina and going to play Arizona in Las Vegas, and especially going to play Kansas at the Fog Allen.
Again, I have tried to find different ways to say this, or I guess what I'm trying to say is I've tried for a month to figure out how to say this, and I sort of, when Mike Woodson was talking yesterday, I kind of found it with this idea that, anxious to play. I think this group has believed for a long time that it's good, and time and results will tell. They can believe all they want. If they finish 9-11 in Big Ten play again, then they're not, and that's just That's just how it goes. But I think they have the capacity, they have the skill, they have the potential to be very good. And that being the case, I think they have been anxious for games like this for a while because they want to prove it to themselves, and to some extent they want to prove it to the general you, me, us.
Well, the national pundits they're still keeping Indiana at arm's length, even though they're ranked in the 12th. I see a lot of people that are still kind of, Seth Davis, those guys were expecting Indiana to be the most disappointing team. So until they, again, get that monkey off their back where they show that, hey, they are legit, and that's exactly what a game like this will do, I think.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And again, listen, winning this game in November doesn't solve everything. You're still going to have to win some other big games, but we do forget, and I think we had to remind ourselves at times last year, for example, that was a team that had never beaten Purdue. It was a team that had never been to the NCAA tournament. It was a team that had never won a game in the Big Ten tournament. They'd beaten Nebraska there were some guys on that team that had beaten Nebraska in 2020, but obviously, that was not a normal sort of Big Ten tournament run. My point is they crossed all these things off last year. That these things that kind of had weighed down different mental or intangible elements of this roster. But if you want to go up a level, I think the way Mike Woodson put it yesterday is if we want to get to where we want to go, essentially, these are the games you got to win. These are the stages you got to improve. You got to prove it on. And I just think that ultimately this is the kind of game that if Indiana is as good as it thinks it is, I'm not saying it's a must win, but it's not far off. Not because the season's over if you don't win it, but because, again, if you think you're this good, here is your stage, here is your platform.
I mean, it's as similar as last year with Syracuse, Syracuse team that was Indiana was they were superior to, but they lost that game, and that was just because they did not have the mental capacity to win. And I think that Mike Woodson is distinctly looking for that, the mental capacity to win games, to not let them go, to keep fighting, whether you're ahead at the end or slightly behind, to keep fighting to win. And I think that's what he wants to see from his team that they just weren't able to do last year until somewhat at the end of the season when they were able to close out a game against Michigan, a game for the first time in 8 or 9 tries, a game against Illinois. They were able to capture some of that at the end, but they need to start now. So at the end of the season, they're way past that. And that's what I think Mike would like to see. Why?
Yeah, no, I think and listen, that's why you play a tougher non-conference schedule. And I know Indiana didn't necessarily pick this game. This is a Gavitt Games thing. But they did pick Kansas. They did pick Arizona, knowing that they were going to get a big game in the ACC Big Ten Challenge, knowing they were likely going to get a difficult opponent in the Gavitt Games. That's why you schedule like this, is so that you can have those moments, you can prove yourself in those ways, and when you're done with your non-conference, you've hopefully accomplished enough to help you with the NCAA tournament resume and all that, but B, you've also sort of proven to yourself this is how we do this. We can beat Xavier on the road. We don't have to worry about half the teams we got in the Big Ten because they're not as good as Xavier, or the atmospheres aren't going to be as tough as the Cintas Center or whatever. This is why you schedule harder, and this is, I think, why Mike Woodson went out and added much more difficult games to his schedule this year.
Zach's got a piece out right now on the Star for previewing the game, so make sure you go and hit that up. Give Zach a follow as well, and keep subscribe to the Star. Keep the local papers alive, baby. Zach, I will see you in Cincinnati.
Sounds good. Drive safe. See you over there.
Well, my friend. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends at Metalworks Brewing Company, a part of the WOW Endeavor Hospitality Group, located just off the square in Bloomington, and also available at all the WOW Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Coming up next, the man, Jeffrey the Greek, as we're going to talk some football. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
He's back.
How we doing?
I love those pink headphones. I never noticed that before.
Yeah, they're red.
Is that an IU red?
I didn't like them on one side, so I started to color them black. And then I realized that was taking way too long, so I just stopped.
Well, I laugh only because if you never see it, because I'm not in the studio when we do the show, but the banner for the show hangs in the studio.
Right. Yep.
Sports Beat, they just outlined with like a light black. You can't see it, so I had to take a damn marker and color it in.
Hey, sometimes you got to do stuff yourself.
It was a pain in the ass, but all right. What I want to know is who plays whom in the. Oh well, they're not playing each other. All right, so Illinois is at Michigan.
Yep.
That's just forget about that. So,
yeah, Chase Brown's out.
Oh, that is so disgusting. That I was watching it when it happened, and I was like, "Are you shitting me?" On the last play of the freaking game,
I know.
The guy that leads
Sucks.
the nation. Did he tear an ACL or anything?
No, it's basically people believe it's a severely sprained ankle.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's what it looked like. It rolled under him.
Yep.
But good God, I hate that for a guy that was leading the country in rushing.
Yeah.
Northwestern PU. This is. -8. Wisconsin and Nebraska.
John, you on today?
No, we've got RC, man.
Gotcha.
Oh shoot, I forgot about you.
No, the mute button. I don't need sound on. I get my sound on my phone, but I can't get it on here. You have a virtual sound card.
Let me run down there real quick.
You didn't miss those or anything? Those lows? You missed them or anything? You didn't stress it.
You're live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Friday. Of course, we're coming to you from Phoebe's Market, where we always do. Lots of folks back there behind me having a nice little meal. They open up at 6 a.m. Holy smokes, open up 6 till 11, I believe. So breakfast, brunch, lunch. It's all going all the time, baby. You're missing out, Jeffrey. Jeffrey the Greek joins us. Our good friend Mitchell knows where he is. He's probably on the golf course somewhere.
Dustin's busy too. Everybody else is having a relaxing Friday except for us, Jim.
I know. It's we're the workhorses, man. We're the workhorses. They just turn their back on things like it's nothing.
Yep.
But the heart of the football. I don't want to say the heart of the football season, but the meat of the football season is pretty much happening right now, man. The Big Ten West. I always like to make fun of them, which is just mainly to get under your skin. But this week is that's where we're watching, because it's up in the air. While I think that Iowa is going to win it because of their situation as far as having probably the easier path, but it's still last week there were still 5 teams that had a shot at winning the Big Ten West title. Now it's down to 4. But some of those are really on the outside. Illinois, I don't think they have a shot, especially because they have to go play Michigan, and there is no way in hell I see that happening. I'm still shocked that they lost to Michigan State. That's the biggest shocker of the Big Ten season to me, and that even includes Indiana over Illinois. We'll talk about that game.
I mean, either one of those two is probably the most shocking when you look at the
only thing that keeps me from making an Indiana Illinois is because it was first game of the season for Indiana, second for Illinois, early enough to where you could get away with stuff.
Right.
Had they played them 3 games later, no, that does not happen, I don't believe. So that's why I think the Illinois was rolling.
Yeah.
And they got beat at home on top of that. They didn't go to Michigan State and get beat. They got beat at home. So that one really, really didn't me.
Yeah. I had picked Michigan State in that game to cover. Yeah, because it didn't look good the week before with Illinois playing Nebraska. Something's been off with Illinois ever since they got out of their idle week. I don't know what it is. But looking at this weekend, technically 5 teams in the Big Ten West are still available. The only 2 teams that are not available to win the division are Nebraska and Northwestern. Wisconsin is a long shot of long shots. They need to win out and have like 3 other teams lose games that they're probably not going to lose. So they're all but out. Minnesota is still in. They need to win out, but they need to have both Purdue and Illinois to lose a game. Illinois probably going to lose tomorrow against Michigan, but Purdue has what I think most people consider the 2 teams struggling the most in the league right now with Indiana and Northwestern. They don't think
Purdue is 18.5-point favorite. Is that too many points for that?
For Northwestern against Northwestern?
Yeah.
At home, I just hate that game in general because Northwestern cannot be trusted.
No, they made it rough. They made it rough on was it Ohio State? They played within 2 scores, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean that was obviously because of the elements. The Northwestern game that they looked the best in was when they played Maryland. I mean, they almost beat Maryland's. They probably could have. So Northwestern's playing a little bit better. And then you couple that with the fact that Purdue has this weirdest thing in the world where unless they're a number by a ranked team, when they're also they look focused, I don't know what it is. So that game just scares me. I picked Purdue.
I'll have to get him to drop out for a second and maybe drop back in. His audio was going away there, so check you back in, Jeffrey. See if your audio picks back up. Seemed like he had a little issue there. Yeah, might have to have you drop out and come back in. The game I'm going to ask him about is Wisconsin at Nebraska. Nebraska is a 10.5-point underdog, and I just don't think Wisconsin's not that good, and Nebraska has been playing better. What were you talking about, my friend?
I've never had that happen before. Yeah, I mean, basically, I've got Purdue 30, Northwestern 13. So I've got a Northwestern cover in that game. But I don't know. It's not a game I'm going to be able to check out a whole bunch anyways, and it certainly isn't one that I see somebody having a big advantage in that game. So yeah, I don't know. That's one I would stay away from. One of them. Go ahead.
What about Wisconsin at Nebraska? I'm surprised to see Nebraska as a 10.5-point underdog. I'm like, I'll take that. Wisconsin's not that damn good, and Nebraska has been competitive, and they're at home.
Now you got me. I don't know if you're looking at a different line or not, but that's 13.5-point line all week long. Oh gosh, you are right. It had dropped all the way down to 10.5. Oh my gosh. I just checked that on Wednesday night. I haven't checked it since then. That is incredible.
I wish I would have seen that.
That started at 13, went up to 13.5, and is all the way down to 10. That is incredible.
We're having an issue with
I actually picked Nebraska. I picked Wisconsin to win 21-10. So I'm going to wind.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe try switching microphones or something, and we'll. Now we can't hear you at all, which never works for radio, does it? But Indiana, we'll talk about that game. They're only a 10.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm not doing anything different here this week. I apologize to the listeners.
Oh, that's okay. Technology, it sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, even at 10.5, I would take that. I sure wish I would have had the 13. I would have jumped all over that because.
Well, what's crazy is.
What am I missing?
What's crazy is the line that I wound up setting in my game is 11. Basically I'm having Wisconsin win by 11. So now I have Wisconsin covering in that game. When Dustin and I recorded on Wednesday evening, it was a cover for Nebraska. That is incredible. I thought maybe you were looking at a different game, but basically what people see is, Wisconsin's offense has been struggling a little bit. Nebraska's defense has actually been playing better than what people realize. So I'm assuming it's something like that people took a little bit deeper look at this and they saw what I saw at the middle or beginning of the week. I'm just shocked it dropped that much.
Someone asked on the Andy Mohonda hotline, Rudy says, is anyone rooting for Purdue to make it to the Big Conference championship game? And that was a resounding no from most of the listeners. But he says he roots for all the Indiana teams except Notre Dame.
But then you draw the line at Notre Dame. That's weird.
Why Notre Dame instead of Purdue? I don't get that.
Right.
Purdue,
it would be the other way around. That applies to basketball season too. Purdue. If they win and Iowa loses, Purdue is all but in the Big Ten championship. I mean, as much as talk has been about the Big Ten West race, if Iowa loses, it's probably decided this weekend, and Purdue would get to Indianapolis.
We got to take a break, and we'll come back and finish it out. We were talking about Indiana is going to be taking on Michigan State, who's gone on a run. Their season looked like it was going down the tubes, but they turned it around. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you normally from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Today, of course, we're at BB's Market here in beautiful Bloomington. Stop by, have a meal, or pick up a turkey or order a smoked turkey for Thanksgiving. Woo! Sounds good, doesn't it? Back with more Jeffrey the Greek right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
I'm going to restart my computer real quick.
I was going to say, it sounds like it's a Wi-Fi issue, not a...
Yeah, it might be. Yeah, I think let me restart it. I'll be right back.
Cool. Shop-a-doobie, shop-a-doobie.
Would that help?
For a second, hopefully it stays that way.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, my wife and I have had internet issues this week, now that I think about it.
Sounds great right now.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely not the microphone or anything set up I have. That's the same setup I have. I think it's just the internet.
Yeah, it wasn't popping. It was you could tell it sounded like a Wi-Fi thing. AJ Guyton's daughter received an offer from Nebraska.
Who did?
AJ Guyton's daughter.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why IU has not offered her yet.
AJ Guyton.
He's one of the top 10 players in IU basketball history. Probably.
Okay. Yep. The name rings a bell. It's just hard for me to place basketball names.
Fucking lethal shooter. Yeah, good dude.
You go live in about 30 seconds, just so you know.
Thank you.
We're live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Friday. Normally from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, but we are at Phoebe's Market, as we are each Friday, live in here. Normally getting some wonderful fare, but my man, Chef JD, not in today, so got left out, man.
Yeah.
Got left out. They just kind of forgot about me. AJ Guyton, congratulations to AJ Guyton's daughter, Elia, received an offer from Nebraska to play basketball. She's pretty good. I've been waiting to see an offer from Indiana. Obviously, Indiana women's program is a top 10 program in the country now, which is great to see. Man, they keep rolling. I don't know if you probably didn't see this. They went down to Tennessee the other night, Jeffrey, and the Vols were ranked ahead of them and beat the Vols by double digits in Thompson-Boeing Arena.
Oh, man. Huge.
The ghost of Pat Summit was not having it. But, yeah, that's pretty cool stuff. Your favorite subject, basketball. Indiana is only a 10-point underdog at Michigan State.
Yeah. I think that line kind of speaks volumes there. I took Indiana to cover in that game.
You really?
I did. I've got Michigan State 30, Indiana 24. Looks like the weather is supposed to be pretty decent in East Lansing from what I thought I remembered looking up. So I don't know. Like, essentially, I think what that is telling you is Michigan State has definitely looked better. Like you had said before, they've turned their season around. I've made an argument that Mel Tucker is doing a better job coaching the team the last month than he did at any point last year. And I know they won a lot of games last year. because it is hard to pull a team out from a nosedive to, getting back to respectable like he did. So I think it's pretty amazing what Mel Tucker's done. On the other side, it was a tough week for your guy Tom Allen. The press conference he had where he was basically, yelling at transfer portal and NIL stuff, which I get it. I don't like transfer portal and NIL stuff either. But as the head coach of a Big Ten program, you either embrace that stuff or you die. So I don't know, it's kind of two ships passing in the night, but even with all that being said, 10.5 points is not a lot, but you look at it, I mean, Indiana's 3-7, Michigan State's 5-5. Let's say Indiana pulls this game out. Well, Indiana's 4-7 and Michigan State's 5-6. Point being is it's not like there's a lot separating these two, if Indiana plays well and Michigan State does not, it would not shock me to see Indiana win this game at all. I don't think it's a horrible money line bet.
What about Michigan State? They win their first 2 games, then they go on a 4-game losing streak.
Yep.
It just looked like it was going into the tubes. Then they beat Wisconsin.
Yep.
And they get things going. Now, out of their last 4 games, their only loss is to number 3 with Michigan. So they've kind of found something. And what is it? What do you see that that gives Indiana a chance on the road against this team, with Indiana having lost 5 straight games or whatever it is now?
I think when Indiana goes up against a really physical front 7, their offense just kind of falls apart. Michigan State doesn't really have that. I think there will be some available yards for Indiana. I'm not saying they're going to run all over Michigan State, but I think they have just enough success running the ball that they can kind of bounce stuff off it a little bit. I think I think your quarterback is starting to settle in a little bit. He should have gotten reps earlier in the year, and I know you guys have been asking for it.
Who's the quarterback?
Freshman quarterback. I'm horrible with I'm horrible with names right now, but I'll get him.
I'm kidding.
Okay. What's his name though? I'm having troubles.
Swords. Daggone. So am I. Are you talking about Dexter Williams?
Dexter Williams, thank you very much.
Okay, he's not a freshman.
He's not a freshman. Okay, all right. New face to the offense, but I think Dexter Williams should have been getting the reps for the last couple of weeks. Excuse me for not remembering his name
for a long time.
Right. So, and I think he's shown flashes. Him and Gavin Wimsatt with Rutgers, they look kind of similar to me with their type of game, and the offense needs to go through them and match what their skill set is. I think Indiana can do that a little bit versus Michigan State. I'm a little bit out on a limb with that. I think a lot of people are picking Michigan State. I don't know. My spidey sense is going off with that. It would not shock me to see Indiana win this game. Very much would not shock me to see Indiana cover. If they do, they need to score some points because Michigan State on the other side, they've kind of got their groove a little bit on offense, and I think they'll score some points on Indiana's defense. I think we're too late in the season to see a turnaround for the Hoosier defense in any capacity. But we'll see. I mean, that's an 11 o'clock game that I think people are going to forget about. I kind of wonder if by, early afternoon when these late games are wrapping up, maybe people are going to be tuning into that game to see if Michigan State can pull it out or not.
It just shocks me. Although Dexter Williams, not a great passer, not throwing the ball well, but he can run.
Yeah.
And that is what's caused some problems. And I think that with that, Indiana might be able to use a little bit of their running game that has been very ineffective this year.
Yep.
But if they can get the ball in the hands of Josh Henderson, of Jalen Williams, and maybe Sean Shivers as well, then they can do something. But and hit some passes to the tight end. Just don't make it difficult. Just keep it simple.
You got to get the ball out of his hands quick. One read type of stuff. I still have faith in a lot of Indiana skill positions. Like there's talent. There's 2 or 3 receivers and a couple running backs you can name that are good. I think they're quality guys. It's just that the offensive line has just grinded the offense to a halt. But again, I don't think Michigan State is so good up front that they're just going to absolutely abuse Indiana. So I'm saying points in this game, but we'll see.
and getting back to Tom Allen and the NIL thing, he's right in what he's saying.
Right.
But here's the problem. You got to get in front of it. You can't wait till you're 2 years behind and then bitch and moan about it.
Correct.
You have to be on top of it. When you hear Ryan Day, he used that quote from Ryan Day, but that quote is a year old.
Right.
He said that a year ago.
Right.
So that's the issue. Yes.
Yeah, it's adjusted.
Yeah. And Indiana does not get the people. It's a basketball school. Let's just be honest. And therefore, they want this basketball team to be good. So a good portion of the NIL has tried to be earmarked by people towards that. But you've got Hoosiers for Good, who's trying to help everything, which I had this discussion the other day. Indiana has to have a competitive football team. They don't have to have a championship football team, but they have to have a competitive football team. You just have to be able to compete and try to reach bowl eligibility each year. And to be honest with you, there's no excuse for not, because this team, as bad as they are, they should have beat Nebraska. They should have beat Maryland. They should have beat Rutgers. Those are the 3 games. And then what if you win those games? What are you? Oh, you finished 6-6, but you're bowl eligible, even with a bad team. So there are a lot of reasons they're in the position they're in. So part of it, but it's not just all of it. There's coaching. There's poor decision making. There's a lot of things that have gone into this last 2 years that this team has gone down.
So reading through Twitter this week with Indiana fans, that Tom Allen press conference where he was complaining about that stuff, that seemed to push a lot of radio show. That seemed to push a lot of Hoosier fans over the line of being beyond frustrated with Tom Allen. Is that what you're reading as well, or am I reading into it too much?
Somewhat, but like I said, it's because you can't wait till now to use that as an excuse or whatever. This has been going on, man. This has been happening. So they're just frustrated, period. And I think part of it's because there's no change coming. Financially, IU cannot make a change if they wanted to.
Okay.
So it's going to be probably another season.
So
you could potentially see 3 straight seasons of Indiana winning a total of
3 or 4
8 games.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about total for the 3 years.
Yeah.
Which then you have to say now how far down does that take the program? Well, that you'll probably be at rock bottom, because with the transfer portal, who's sticking around?
Right.
Who's going to stick around for that? Then now you've got to bring in a new coach, and boy, you talk about, unless you bring in a Mel Tucker, and who is able to knock it out of the park, right? But we saw what happened with going that route. He killed it in the transfer portal, but the season after this year, he's having all kinds of problems.
Right.
So it's a live by the sword, die by the sword kind of thing.
It is. Yeah, I mean, the money that is floating around the Big Ten is always going to be attractive, but you sit there and you're like, but that's what everybody's making in the Big Ten, so making that kind of money is an advantage in some capacity against other schools, but against the Big Ten schools, it just gets you a seat at the table. It's the same as, so what you're worried about is whoever takes the Indiana job next, are they taking it to just get a payday and getting back out of there in 3 or 4 years? I hope.
And that's if that happens. I am not saying that that's happening. I try to always preface that. I am not
for sure. Not
saying
allocating that. Right. No, I hear you there. I mean, we got to talk about the Floyd of Rosedale, right?
Absolutely.
98-pound bronze pig. It's the greatest rivalry trophy in all of college football. You got to. I know you hate everything that has to do with the Big Ten West, Jim, but that is some great tradition right there.
Iowa State, Iowa. I love it. No, I love tradition. Iowa football. I love that stuff. I love Nebraska. Love that stuff. No, it's not what you think. But no, I love old rivalries like that, because especially when the teams are bought in, when they're competitive and they're all bought into it, man, it's just freaking fun. I remember it when I was in high school. It's the weirdest thing. You have these feelings for people that for no
right,
damn reason.
yeah.
You're like, I can't stand these guys.
Right.
Why? I don't know why, but boy, you get all worked up, and it's fun. Then later in life, you say, "Hey, what's up, man?" And it's all cool, but
no, that's a really good point.
Couldn't stand them, but that's how it should be, man. For people that want to sanitize everything, no, you don't. You're taking all the flavor out of life, man.
That's a good point.
I don't eat salt on everything, but sometimes things need just a little salt. Need a little pepper, whatever the case, paprika, whatever the case may be. You can't go through life without flavors, baby.
No, I love it. There's some extra salt that I have for some other rivalries more than the Iowa-Minnesota personally, but there are Iowa fans that dislike and hate Minnesota more than anybody. The fun that's been having on Twitter this week is in 2002 when Iowa went into the Metrodome, when Minnesota used to play in the Metrodome, and clinched an 8-0 Big Ten season that year and won the Big Ten championship. Iowa fans stormed the field and ripped down Minnesota's goalposts, and I was there. My middle brother and I were there.
I heard about that. When was this? First of all, when was this?
20 years ago. So it was the 20-year anniversary. That is a lot of people believe the "We Hate Iowa" cheer was born that day. That's a cheer Minnesota does. Even when they're not playing Iowa, they could be playing, Northern Illinois in a basketball game, and they'll get a "We Hate Iowa" cheer going. So there's definitely some animosity there. What's even funnier is the game total in this game is 32.5 points, which people believe is the lowest game total of any game since 2000, since people have been really paying attention to the game totals for NCAA. So I'm going to the game. Big Kurt's going with me. My wife's going with me, and one of her friends. We're going to have to bundle up. The joke is, what's going to be the highest total in the game, the temperature or either one of these teams scoring points, which is all about around 17 points. Or 17 degrees, I should say. So it's going to be a cold one, but hopefully in the end, Iowa's raising the pig, which would be, by the way, the 8th straight year.
Why not a real pig?
It started with a real pig.
And have a barbecue.
That's how it started. The first one was a real pig, but they realized pretty quick it's hard to transport.
They should actually be smoking and roasting an entire pig.
There is
prior to and during the game, and as soon as the game's over, the winner, you rush that out to the middle of the field and you just start grabbing chunks off of it to eat. I think that's a great idea.
I can assure you, at my tailgate area, whenever we play Minnesota, there's a pig. It's a heavy pork flavor all around the tailgate, which obviously fits in perfect with BB's. So I don't know about Minnesota. My wife and I got invited to a indoor tailgate, which I'm very happy to be at because I don't want to be outside any longer than I have to on Saturday. I can assure you there's going to be some bacon ordered on tomorrow morning when we sit down to eat.
Oh, man. Speaking of bacon, right here, baby. They're homemade bacon. Can't wait to
Good stuff.
Oh, yeah. Are you kidding me?
Nice.
Watch them cut it. I watch them cut it. Get it cut. And get it cut however I like.
Stick you on it. Yep.
Can't beat that. So you're taking Indiana this weekend in the football game.
Yeah, I'm taking the points in Indiana. I'm taking Penn State to cover versus Rutgers, but just barely. I'm taking Ohio State to cover versus Maryland, but just barely. Like the Vegas has got these lines just dialed in this week. They all scare the bejesus out of me. I do have Iowa winning outright, and that game right now is Minnesota favored by a field goal. So that's probably my biggest swing game right there is Iowa winning outright and taking the points.
Well, that's it's going to be some surprises. The end of the season, upsets, the college football playoffs. How does Tennessee not walk into the college football playoffs?
Yeah, unfortunately,
I think the Big Ten is going to get shafted here. What if? And I've said this before. What if Michigan barely beats Ohio State. You're going to kick Ohio State out?
We'll see.
You let Tennessee hang around, and they got drilled by Georgia.
Yeah, that'll be the best way for sure that the Big Ten gets 2 teams in is if Michigan and Ohio State play a classic that Michigan wins. Then Ohio.
I think if they play a classic and Michigan loses, Michigan's out.
I believe so too because Michigan just
and
does
it's only
not have
because of perception
and schedule. There was just nobody that Michigan played of note in their out-of-conference schedule, whereas Ohio State played Notre Dame, which is now, helping out the Buckeyes a lot, and they're gaining. Yeah, right now, Georgia's already in. Essentially, the winner of the Michigan-Ohio State game is already in. After that, I am hoping that TCU and USC and North Carolina or Clemson, one of those teams can all win out because for me, I want to box out that second SEC team, which is essentially Tennessee. I would just love if we could have a college football playoff without 2 SEC teams for a freaking change.
Yeah, especially when it's already lost to another team that was in it.
Yeah.
I mean, that would really be aggravating for Tennessee to be able to make it in with Georgia in there, a team that they've already lost substantially to. And if it had been a one-score game, maybe I'm not.
Yep. No, I hear what you're saying.
But why? And why Tennessee and not whoever is on the other side of the SEC championship game if that's close?
Right. Yeah.
But it can't be LSU. LSU's got 2 losses already, and one of those losses.
I hope not. I mean, the crazy thing is, it could be a scenario where LSU beats Georgia, and Georgia gets into the college football playoff, and LSU doesn't. It's possible that it could go down like that. There's still people talking that there could be 3 SEC teams in. That LSU gets in with a win, Georgia is already in, and Tennessee sneaks in.
I'm telling you right now.
I hope not.
LSU has 2 losses. That's not going to happen. And
I'll tell you what, I'm mostly on the same page. With that being said, I am a big Georgia Bulldog fan for the next 3 weeks because I want them to win out, finish 13-0, kick LSU out of the playoffs, and at least get it down to just being Georgia and Tennessee.
Well, man, it's always a blast each and every Friday. Looking forward
Absolutely.
to Saturdays. Saturdays are running a little less, though.
I know. Sad.
It is sad. But enjoy your weekend, my friend. Hope you get to eat some pig. So I wish you. I don't care about Iowa State, so win some pig.
Minnesota.
I know that, but you can still eat some pig.
I got you. All right.
And maybe you'll come to Indianapolis if Iowa makes it to the championship game.
Maybe. That conversation has been going. I'd have to find cheap flights because no way in heck I'm driving. But we'll see. It was fun when I was down there last fall.
They're there. I promise you.
They're there. All right.
So we do the show live from Lucas Oil.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun.
Absolutely. Have a great day, brother.
You too. See you guys.
Appreciate you. Jeffrey the Greek joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat as he does each and every Friday. Appreciate him so much. What a great day this has been. As always, Alec Lasley, big thanks to him from thehoosier.com. Make sure you go there and give him a follow. Thehoosier.com will have complete coverage of tonight's game with Xavier. Thanks to Zach Osterman, of course, and Jeffrey the Greek. And tonight, make sure you tune in for the post-game show with Todd Leary. It is back as we're getting started tonight. Looking forward to that as the Todd father makes his return. Make sure that should be about 8:20. We start immediately after the press conferences. On home games, it's a little different. It's probably about 20 minutes post. On road games, it could be a little faster than that because they like to get the hell out of there as quickly as they can. And it's usually just in the hallway type of a deal to get that knocked out. So we'll be on after the game. We'll have the link set up so you guys can have that. So big thanks to everybody. Like I said, thanks to RC for jumping on as John, the producer, on assignment today. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we have no reason to be here. We appreciate you so much. Until tonight, after the game, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.